I was running Funk Volume, like we got accused like a few different times.
I wonder how many lawsuits are hiding in that tiny door behind you.
Stop talking about that damn door, man.
What's going down, everybody? It is the MEC, the most relaxing podcast on the platform. We are at episode 7. It's myself and Damian Ritter. Today, we're going to be breaking down the entire Sade catalog. What's going down? It's episode 7. 7's a lucky number. We have a lot to cover today, but there's someone who didn't have much luck. Actually, it's an entire record label surrounding the artist Katy Perry. I didn't tell you about this because I was a little bit late to get this started, but this is why I was late, because I was reading this article about Katy Perry losing a lawsuit. I don't know if, when these articles come out, we always put the artist front and center as though they're the ones bearing the burden of the legal repercussions, when in reality it's probably everybody but her, the label, the distributor, everybody. In this case, it's UMG. But the song Dark Horse, which came out a long time ago, when did that come out?
Yeah, this case has been pending for like 5 years. So I don't know when the song came out, but I know that the case has been going on, or the trial's been going on for a long time.
Well, apparently they lost. The rapper that took them to court, his name is Flame. He actually won the lawsuit. I didn't know what was going on because I don't pay attention to anything. How was it presented before?
I think I heard about it when it first, but again, the trial's been going on for so long that you just forgot about it now that they've come to, settlement, right? We're hearing about it again, but I don't know. I just think it's interesting. For me, the songs definitely sound similar, but I just feel like, there's so many producers making beats these days. I'm sure millions of beats are being created every day. The likelihood of two sounding very similar, if not the same, I think is a very real thing. On the flip side, taking people's ideas is a very real thing. So it's just a tough thing to prove. And I have no idea if Katy Perry's team actually took the beat from Flame. I don't have all the evidence. I just think it's an interesting situation, man, because like I said, so many beats are being created. I've heard a lot of beats that sound very similar. When I was running Funk Volume, we got accused like a few different times of stealing a beat, from somebody that we didn't even know who they were, but the songs did sound similar. I couldn't deny that, but it was just.
How similar though? Dark Horse, similar. Because when I'm skeptical about this stuff, I'm still skeptical about the whole Robin Thicke Pharrell situation. But this Katy Perry Dark Horse record sounds. Man.
Yeah, it does. I don't know, man. It's just tough. I would have liked to have been in there not during the whole trial, of course, but I would like to just see all the evidence that was presented, because I read about it quickly too, and I know that part of the evidence was that she had to have heard of him because of her Christian background. It's just weird, man. It definitely sounded very similar. I know Rapzilla made a post, and there's a link on SoundCloud where you can hear one song, then the other song, then one song, then the other song, then together. And it definitely sounds very similar, if not the same.
Yeah, it's the same beat. And I don't know about her being a Christian defense is really a good argument, but
no, that was an argument for Flame.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a weak argument, but that being said, how many Christians are on the planet? But that being said, I guess it makes you worry about how often this might happen in the business. I'm skeptical about this stuff, like I said, but to me, this is a clear-cut situation, and they dragged it out for years and years. And when you listen to the Flame record, it's not like it was some obscure Christian rapper that had 500 YouTube views. It's at 4 million. I don't know how many of those views came following all the controversy, but Lecrae's on the record. Lecrae's a Grammy-winning artist. This is
not a small artist. He's not just like a nobody.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around how the people behind an artist as big as Katy Perry would make this kind of misstep.
Right.
Such an egregious and obvious way.
Right.
I think, wouldn't it have just been easier to just say, all right, look, let's just cut you into, something, settle, cut them into the public scene. I don't know what, man, but music business is crazy. I think the fact that this is such a big deal goes to show us how often, maybe, I don't know, how often this happens and doesn't result in some kind of legal case or a lawsuit or even a settlement. Or if there's a settlement, maybe it always happens or often happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time, but this was able to be drawn out this long because of the success of the record, right? If the record didn't have this much success, it wouldn't have made sense to pursue. Most records don't reach a percentage of a fraction of the success. So it wouldn't make sense to go to trial for 5 damn years.
Well, did you see? You can't say "damn" in the context of a Christian rap conversation. Did you see the breakdown of the finances presented by what was it? Capitol Records?
No, I didn't see that.
Let me make sure it's Capitol Records. It is Capitol Records, and the claim was that the song and the tour and the album, I believe, generated over $30 million, which is a lot, but it doesn't seem like that much given the success of Katy Perry's album. Anyway, they claim that because of expenses related to the album and staffing and all this other stuff, that they actually only profited about $500,000. So I thought that was interesting. We don't actually know from the articles that I read, at least, what was awarded to the original plaintiff in that case, which is a rapper by the name of Flame. I'm sure it's 7 figures, you would think.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth pursuing. Again, if a record's that big, I think it's worth pursuing. If it's a Joe Schmo just putting stuff up and doesn't receive any streams, then you probably just let it ride, or you cuss them out on social media or whatever.
Which can be powerful. It's good to cuss people out on social media.
Cool. But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting case. One of the more high profile cases that we've seen of stuff like this over the past couple of years.
I wonder how many lawsuits are hiding in that tiny door behind you.
Stop talking about that damn door, man.
All right, let's talk about YBN Cordae.
Yeah, man. Obviously, YBN Cordae, one of hip hop's rising stars, and then I think he's setting himself up to be here for a while. And I think we kind of understood why, or one of the reasons why I think he'll be here for a while. He was on Everyday Struggle, and he was breaking down why some artists are using hip hop as just a way to make money. They don't really care about the culture. They're just in a tough situation. So they're using it as an opportunity to make money. And he was kind of explaining it in a way that really just humanized the situation, where you could be like, oh, I kind of understand that, right? Because a lot of hip hop purists are angry at some of art, even though there's been artists that have been using hip hop as a way to just make money forever. I think it might be more prevalent now because of the internet, and the opportunities have increased to be able to do that. This is not a new thing, but I think he describes it in a way that I think, just humanizes that experience, because it's very real. If somebody's in a tough situation, they want to do whatever they can to get out of a tough situation. And if using hip hop to do that, they're successful in getting out of that situation, how can you be mad at that? Because the alternative is, being in the hood, just in a messed up situation, potentially in danger. So there have been artists that have taken a different approach and have gone in on artists that do that, right? They just kind of take advantage of hip hop. They don't really care about the culture. And I think that excites their fans. I mean, Hopsin obviously being one of these artists, you know, it excites their fans in the moment. But if you ever want to work with these type of artists that you're bashing, you know, in the future, if you ever want to establish these relationships to kind of build your own career, you're kind of closing that door. And YBN doesn't do that. You know, he embraces it. I think he still gets love from the hip hop purists because the record is dope and his lyrics are dope. And the way he explained it, you know, makes a lot of sense. But then I think because he's kind of bridging that gap and bridging that divide, you know, he doesn't close himself off from, you know, potentially working with more mainstream artists in the future. And I think it just goes to show, like, a lot of decisions that you make about your brand and your positioning early on could have some larger effects later on. So that's what you just need to be thinking about. Yeah, you could be feeding your fans and that could be great. You know, but what are the potential long-term effects? And you may decide that you don't care, you know, that you may decide that you don't care about any bridges you're burning or anything like that, you know, and that's just authentically who you are. But again, I just think it's important for young people to think about how they're positioning themselves for the future, you know, with their brand. So I thought that was interesting, and I applaud him for just having what seemed like just a really good head on his shoulders.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. I think what's crazy is that, well, one, how do we know if an artist is authentic about their love for hip hop, or if they're just using it as a vehicle for financial gain, unless they tell us? I mean, I have conversations with people online where someone, you know, tweets, yeah, sampling is garbage and graffiti is legal and you should all be in jail, but they're a hip hop producer. To me, that's somebody who doesn't care about the culture, because
right,
for the obvious reasons, if you know, you know. But with rappers in hip hop have always talked about money, because hip hop came from a you know, an era in the country, in America's history, when neoliberalism just ripped through cities and devastated people financially, disproportionately affecting people of color. So of course, economic topics were pervasive, you know, for anybody in those communities. So of course they're going to talk about money, and always have. But it's like we're forgiving if they're dope and they care about, because I think you can simultaneously care about hip hop and then also want to make money. Everybody wants to make money. There was that weird kind of purist movement, not in the 70s, not in the 80s, not in the early 90s, but kind of like in the mid to late 90s, and it's still around today, where there's this idea that if, in order to be a pure hip hop artist, whatever art form you choose within the culture, you have to somehow take a vow of poverty or starvation, which has always been weird to me.
I think he's talking more, and I think more people are just talking about the artists that literally say, like, I don't care. Like, they'll just come out and say, I don't care, or say, like, F some of the greats, you know, whereas and anybody can fake it, but if you follow Cordae, like, I recently saw an interview that he did with Rob Markman on Genius, and he, like, was reciting a lot of Nas lyrics. So if you follow
run in New York, damn, did he? I don't think he slept. I think he was just out there doing Genius and Breakfast Club, and what else did he do? Everyday Struggle.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, that's what you gotta. That's what you sign up for. Like, if you want to have success on another level, man, when it's your time, you better be ready to do all the interviews, all of the meet and greets, all the radio stations. Like, if you get that opportunity to shine, man, definitely take advantage of it. You know, because he's in the limelight. He's definitely. I'm in terms of like a true hip hop artist. Like, I feel like he's right in the position right now. I don't really see anybody else in terms of being like a rising star that, you know, has more potential than him, that's in his lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't want to hear anybody say new music is all trash and it's not lyrical and blah blah blah. And, you know, people just aren't trying, because Cordae is right there front and center. But the other thing is, I'm just happy that the album came out and that he is doing this and he has that opportunity to do this. Because he's kind of an anomaly in the game right now.
Yeah,
for a lot of reasons. And
at his age,
yeah.
I don't know exactly his age, but I think is he still in his teens, like late teens?
No, he early 20s.
Early 20s? Okay.
He looks young, but yeah, early 20s.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. I think he's super dope. So, hopefully he continues to do the right things. It seems like he's saying the right things. He's putting out the right music, surrounding himself with the right people, man. So I don't see how he can lose at this point. So I think he'll be around for a while.
Yeah, and the album's getting good reviews, and that goes a long way because he's not. His career isn't reliant on. This is why he's an outlier, I would say. One of the many reasons, because it seems as though his success, or at very least the focus of his career right now, is on his body of work and as him as an artist, not on a single. And that's not easy to achieve. I mean, whether or not the album is a top 10 record really doesn't matter at this point, because he's positioned himself for longevity. It's almost counterintuitive, right? You think, well, if you get a hit record, then you can get another one and another one. It's almost as though that might not even work in today's climate, because hits are just being churned out. Whereas if you can convince a smaller number of people to like you for your talent and for your personality, which is what he's doing, you're actually going to last longer and be more successful in the long run, as opposed to someone who gets a hit or two right off the bat and we never know anything about them because that hit is more of the focus than them as artists.
Well, I think this also goes to show like the power that the album still has, right?
Yeah.
Like, this moment right now that he has would not have been created without this album, without the theme and the stories that run through this album that people want to talk to him about. So to anybody says album don't matter, this is exactly why I feel like they do. It really helps solidify this moment in time for him to be kind of like this breakout rising star, because this is what's given him the reason to go on this press run. And one thing that I saw was cool, and I literally saw it this morning, like he has flyers. He's using text marketing advertising, so in a clever way. So we use it, obviously, we're very direct. We say text MEC to 844-206-7800. We do that all the time. We're very direct. But he actually has like some flyers, because his album is called Lost Boy, I think, right? I think it's Lost Boy. So he has like some flyers, like making it seem like he's lost. So call this number if you've seen him. I think that's what it says. But that's really a super phone number. And I don't know, I didn't call it. I don't know what you get back in return. But it seems like he's got some clever marketing going on too, because as you know, like I've been preaching the importance of getting fan phone numbers for years. And it's still crazy to me that I have to have this conversation many, many times, and every artist isn't doing it. But he's doing it in a clever way, because some artists aren't comfortable just saying, hey, text this number. But he found a way to incorporate it into the theme of his album, and I just think that's really dope. It's something that I saw this morning. So that was pretty cool, too.
How do you know it's a super phone number? You just recognize it?
Nah, because I saw it because Ryan Leslie was had promoted it. So shout out to Ryan Leslie and Superphone. Superphone is an option. Fan Connect is an option. You go to fanconnectapp.com. That's what we use. So I want to talk more about, I want to talk a lot about text marketing on the tour. But I'm going to bring it up from time to time on this podcast, man, because to me, it's so crazy that all artists aren't trying to get phone numbers at this point, man. It's crazy. Every other business or every other industry is doing it. You want to own that communication. So I'm going to continue to plug it.
Yeah, I got my Fan Connect account. I just need to. Well, I'm going to be with you all week on the tour. MECtour.com, by the way. Well, we're starting in Atlanta, going to DC, Philadelphia. Where else?
New York.
And then we end in Boston.
Yeah.
MECtour.com. What's the 20% discount code so that the people listening?
The 20% discount code is just MEC Tour, no spaces. You can get 20% off your ticket. It's going to be a dope event, man. These are smaller, like pop-up conferences where we really get an opportunity to talk to everybody and hopefully address like individual concerns and questions. So it's going to be really dope, man. Looking forward to seeing everybody on the road.
Yeah, that's what we did on the last tour, and the attendance was pretty big, and we were still able to talk to individuals. But yeah, when I'm in the same room as you, I'm gonna pick your brain on Fan Connect.
Yeah, it's been helpful, man. Like with Big Ja, the comedian that I work with, you know, we've just been focused on trying to get as many phone numbers as possible. We've also been using ManyChat, which is messenger marketing on Facebook, to try to get as many subscribers as possible. We just try to approach it from all angles, still emails, phone numbers, ManyChat, social media, just try to collect as much data as possible because we're gearing up to do a crowdfunding campaign. And we want people to know about it, right? So the only way to guarantee that is to text them, because we know they'll get the message if we text them. So we got crowdfunding coming up, we got a tour coming up. So yeah, and you probably hear my dog in the background. It's pretty annoying. So hopefully he'll shut up in a second.
Yeah, crowdfunding. No, number one, thank you for contributing to me and Soul's crowdfunding campaign. We hit our $10,000 goal because of people like Dame. And I don't know, is that becoming more part of just the independent and DIY landscape? Because I know that initially there was like this whole wave of crowdfunding, but I think musicians kind of avoid it a little bit, just because it feels like begging, even though small businesses and startups ran to it because they were actually successful at raising capital for the creation and development of their companies or their products.
Well, I think it just depends. I mean, I think crowdfunding is a great thing, you know, and you can be very successful with it. Lil Dicky is probably the best example that I have of this.
Yeah.
You know, because actually I spoke with Lil Dicky really early on. He actually reached out to Dizzy for a feature. Never happened because at the time Dizzy was charging and I don't think he wanted to pay. So whatever. But when I talked to him, like, he was arrogant, but he was smart and strategic. And I knew, like, just based off like the visuals that I had seen and what he was telling me that he was about to do, like, he was going to be successful. Because even before he kicked off that crowdfunding campaign, you know, he told me what the plan was, and then I saw him execute it on social media. He told me the story that he was telling. You know, the professional rapper, you know, white Jewish cat. This story was developing. He was being very strategic on social media, and then he ended up, and his fan base, you know, everything he put out was quality. So his fan base was continuing to bubble. So I knew that he had the type of fans that would really contribute to a crowdfunding campaign, and that's ultimately what launched his career, because he raised over $100,000. I don't remember the exact number, but it definitely was over $100,000 for him to have a budget for his first actual album, which I believe was called The Professional Rapper. You know, so crowdfunding makes a lot of sense. You just have to do it in a way that supports your brand, and you have to time it right. You want to know like when to do it. So with Big Ja, the comedian that I'm working with, you know, he's not like completely on yet. He's not like a comedian like Kevin Hart, or, you know, his fans just won't assume that he shouldn't be doing a crowdfunding campaign because he already has a ton of money, but he has a lot of people that really have supported him from the ground up. And I feel like now is the perfect time, because I think he's going to have a lot of success over the next year. And if we waited till like the end of next year, he might be in a position where people might be like a little, might not be as excited to take part in it, because you might see him in a movie and you might see him and be like, oh, okay, he's already on. He doesn't need this level of support. But at the same time, I've seen people that have been on and still use crowdfunding. It just depends on what you're doing, how you do it, what your messaging is. But if you have real fans that want, or even if you don't have that many fans, you just have like, you know, friends that are supportive, a lot of friends that are supportive, a lot of family that's supportive, you know, it's a way to, you know, it's a way to put out a project with additional funds. So I don't see a bad thing about it at all.
Yeah, no, I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen with artists who have very few fans, and they end up getting contributions from family, from friends, and that's a launch pad for them to go on tour or release an album or whatever it is that they're currently working on.
Or you might get depending on what it is. Like if somebody finds out about it, maybe you got a good cause attached to it, just a good story attached to it. You might surprise yourself and raise more money than you anticipated if you pitch it the right way.
I want to go back to YBN Cordae quick, because right after I heard his music on, and this is before the album, on just YouTube, because he was doing those freestyles, I found him on Twitter. We followed each other, and then I just reached out to him. We started having a conversation, and I know prior to that, my close producer friend Dreamlife had worked with him because I think he had just leased beats from his beat store, and it was just clear that he was using his own social media and communicating with fans and retweeting fans and interacting with them. And I think that was another reason why, once his album came out and now that the spotlight's on him and he's getting publicity from some of these major publications, from the Breakfast Club to Genius, I mean, you don't really get much bigger than that at this point in the hip hop sphere, that his momentum is growing because his fans were growing with him and they were invested. You know, right. They could actually interact with him. So there was real buy-in. They really felt like he cared. And that's crazy because he already had momentum at that time. There are artists with very little momentum who don't see that as a necessary part of their journey. They see that as a nuisance almost. And you see that when you have conversations with mostly rappers and singers, but some producers where they say, man, I'm not trying to use social media, or I'm trying to be mysterious and not be on social media too much. Or I need a manager to do my social media for me. I don't, you know, the music, especially when you're a songwriter, and virtually all rappers, especially starting out, all rappers are songwriters. That's a personal process. Your music is very personal. Why would you want your social media not to be?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, you know, we've talked about this a lot. You know, trying to be mysterious in this day and age is a really tough way to go about it. You know, you kind of want to be hands-on and personal, really develop that relationship with the fans. You know, because he's got a big group of like foundational supporters that really kind of are helping him in this moment, because he has a very real connection with his fans. So, you know, couple that with now like bigger looks, you know, his fans are even more excited because they feel like they've played a large role in the process, and they did. You know, what I also think is interesting about him, and again, I don't know too much about his team and how they're connected, or if it's like just a crew or a thing. You know, the YBN thing, as obviously YBN Namir makes totally different music. You know, Cordae, I assume they're still cool, still part of the same crew, but he's definitely carved out a separate lane for himself under the same umbrella. I don't know if there's like a formal agreement or how that works, but I think that's dope too. I think that's dope how he was able to just kind of, you know, carve out a separate lane, but still be part of a crew that you know, that does different types of music. I think that's helped him out a lot as well in terms of just getting him exposure, because Namir songs have been really, really big songs. And I know they've done stuff together, so he's benefited from that cross promotion, but still now been able to carve out his own lane. So that's dope.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to look at what he's doing now and what he did before. I guess that's another problem too in the music business. We tend to start paying attention to what people are doing before or after they make it, after they're in front of us. We don't pay attention to what they're doing as they're reaching that point.
Right.
And so we get a really poor representation of their strategy. We don't even get half the picture by looking at what somebody's done after the spotlight has been placed on them. We got to pay attention to them as they're walking towards the spotlight.
Right.
And that's when things start getting twisted in the game, in people's minds, because you look at Cordae, yeah, obviously someone else, he's not booking his own appearance on the Breakfast Club. So you look at it and say, okay, that's what I need. I need someone that can book me on the Breakfast Club. But they're not looking at how he was interacting with his fans on Twitter for a whole year prior to that. And therefore they don't do it. And then they never find themselves in his position because they didn't work for it the way he did.
Right. Well, half these cats, man, like if you know, the people that want a Breakfast Club interview, you know, if you gave them the opportunity and you threw them on there, like what the hell would they talk about? Like, what?
I think Charlemagne even addressed that once. There was a rapper that, well, probably a million rappers that, you know, they want that spotlight, but don't even know how to take advantage of it properly. Right.
You got to be prepared for you. Well, one, you have to work and deserve these opportunities, but you got to be prepared once you get the opportunity. You know, if you're not ready for a Breakfast Club interview, if you haven't done a million other Joe Schmo interviews, right? Because it takes a while to even get comfortable as an interviewer. Like, interviewing is a skill, you know, responding to people's questions and, you know, talking fluently and making sure you're communicating the right way. You know, it's a skill that needs to be developed, and that's the Breakfast Club is prime time. I mean, that's bigger than, you know, a lot of TV stations. So you better be ready once you get an opportunity like that, because that you know, that's a lot of great exposure.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm ready. I think I'm gonna go online and find someone that can get me on the Breakfast Club for a small fee of maybe $1,500 to $300 wired or sent via PayPal, friends and family. I'm sure it's not a scam. MEC Tour is going down, MECtour.com. The code is MEC Tour
20.
MEC Tour 20.
Yeah.
20% off. We're giving that to anybody tuning into our podcast. We're going to be focused a lot on networking. I did want to talk about networking, but I think I'll save it for the next podcast when we're back from the tour, just so that I can share some insight of what I learned from all the people that we spoke with and that we met while we were on the tour.
Cool. And one more plug for Fan Connect. If you're interested in text marketing, they have a free trial, Fan Connect. Go to fanconnectapp.com. Step up your marketing efforts. Make sure you're owning the communication with your fans. One way to do that is to get phone numbers. Check it out.
Fanconnect.com. Also, shout out LA Vocal Booth and Song Trust, who will be presenting the MEC Tour. I'm excited, man, because at some point there's going to be a very different scene behind me, including an LA Vocal Booth. So
oh, dope.
Yeah, maybe it won't be directly behind me, but once I move into the new studio, I'm going to give a tour and talk about all the cool stuff that I have in there. That's going to be a centerpiece for it. And Song Trust, you know,
I was thinking about asking them to put one in here, but I don't record shit, so it would just look nice and I could, you know, promote it. But, you know, I'll get in voiceovers or something later on. I don't know.
Shout out to Dame. He opened that tiny door behind him, and that just scrambled everything. You look like you were in the Matrix just now. Oh, that you could build an LA Vocal Booth in that little door.
Man, then, I don't know what your fascination is with that damn door.
Because someone pointed it out, I can't unsee it now.
All right, man. Let's wrap this up. I hope to see everybody on the tour, MECtour.com. Until next week.